From Youth Symposium to the Lagos Metropolitan Transport Authority National Conference, where the state government has urged stakeholders in the transportation sector to forge a strong partnership with the government in order to scale the transportation sector in the state. Speaking at the National Conference on Sustainable Urban Mobility organized by the Lagos LAMATA, the State Deputy Governor, Quadri Hamzat, says the private sector must foster partnership with the government to accelerate progress in the transportation sector.
It's the maiden edition of the Lagos Metropolitan Transport Authority National Conference on Sustainable Urban Mobility at Eco Hotel and Suites, Victoria Island, Lagos.
You can transit from one mode to another.
The Lagos State Deputy Governor, Quadri Hamzat, State Cabinet members and stakeholders in the transportation sector are here to deliberate on how to make the sector perform better in a digital age for sustainable development.
This gathering definitely marks a pioneering event in our collective journey toward building a more sustainable, inclusive, and climate-resilient urban transport system, not just for Lagos, but also for the whole of Nigeria as a whole. We're part of a nation, we're part of a country. When one grows and the other doesn't grow, then the nation doesn't really grow. And the vision of LAMATA is to ensure that we all grow together. This conference will serve, and this is our vision, as a knowledge hub for policymakers, planners, engineers, researchers, operators, and other key stakeholders at both national and subnational levels in Nigeria. The 2024 Maiden Conference, the theme that we have for it is implementing safe, inclusive, and climate-resilient urban transport in a digital age for sustainable development. This captures the breadth of challenges and opportunities we face in the transport sector today. It speaks to the urgent need for solutions that prioritize safety, equity, and sustainability, while embracing the power of digital technologies that can transform our systems and hopefully elevate our cities.
In Lagos, vehicular emissions have emerged as a critical global challenge, a critical issue the state government is planning to solve as soon as possible.
In 2021, transportation accounted for the largest share of greenhouse gas emissions, contributing 28% of the total. These emissions primarily result from burning fossil fuels in our vehicles, ships, trains, and planes, adversely impacting both people and the environment through air and noise pollution, as well as carbon monoxide emissions, which have both direct and indirect harmful effects. Climate-resilient urban transportation is essential for sustainable development, particularly as cities grapple with the growing impacts of climate change. Some key strategies and policies currently implemented or under consideration in Lagos State include electrification of transport, which is the transitioning to electric vehicles, EVs, and promoting electric public transport can significantly mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. The multimodal transport system, which encourages its use of diverse modes of transport, such as buses, trains, bicycles, and walking, which will reduce dependence on private vehicles and decrease emissions. Thirdly, climate-resilient infrastructure, which involves the construction of infrastructure capable of withstanding extreme weather events, such as floods and heat waves, is very vital. This involves designing roads, bridges, and public transport systems that are durable and adaptable.
Representatives from other states highlight the initiative put in place by the government to improve transportation with the use of alternative energy.
Lagos and Kano share some striking similarities in terms of population, with the latter leading in the urban transport. Kano is following closely with the establishment of independent ministry and some agencies to champion urban transport reforms. Let me, however, indicate that transportation is the lifeblood of our cities and critical component for sustainable development. In Kano State, we recognize that effective mobility is not merely about moving people from one point to another. It is about creating accessibility, safe and efficient transportation system that respects and enhances the lives of all citizens, particularly those in vulnerable communities. In the spirit of inclusivity, we must strive to ensure that our transportation policies and systems are designed to serve our one, regardless of age, ability, or socioeconomic status. It is imperative that we break down the barriers that prevent equitable access to transportation, thereby fostering social inclusive and economic growth.
We have constructed an international cargo airport in the state that is located close to the biggest market in the West Africa, on the main market, and will be ultimately linked to a proposed rail line. After I will show you the feasibility study we've done for the rail, very soon it will be on board. Our intent is to make the airport the hub of the other sectors of the transport system in the state. You know, you can agree with me that the air transport is currently the safest, but because we're an investment-friendly state, we want people to be coming in and going out, and you know, Anambra people also travel a lot. So we want to make the airport the hub. So the airport will be strategically linked to the rail, to various roads, and even to the water transport.
It's also an opportunity for the Lagos Metropolitan Transport Authority to educate the gathering on how the transport services operate.
We have over 80 motor parks in Lagos, according to our bus route network, and all the unions are present in all these motor parks. You can see these motor parks are one of the QBC corridors that we currently want to reform. We are going to start with 8 QBC corridors, and after this, we can now move to the entire Lagos. So in conjunction with MOT, we have been engaging with these 2 big unions on how to plan, on how to restructure, on how to reform and operationalize the QBC corridors. Now, what is QBC? So the QBC corridors, they are like a corridors that interface with the existing and operational BRT corridors, also the proposed one. They integrate with the LRT lines, that is the blue and the red lines. Out of the 13 QBC corridors, 8 has been shortlisted based on multi-criteria analysis. And basically, the key component of establishing this QBC corridor is about traffic and road implementation.
Water transportation under the supervision of the State Waterways Authority is also not left out. The General Manager of LASWA speaks on the local government areas connected by water and transporting commuters safely.
15 out of 20 local governments are accessible by water in Lagos State, so it's a no-brainer of why we shouldn't be moving people en masse by the waterways. And all the other information had been passed across before. So this is just some data for you to chew on. 57 routes, but we have 10 major priority routes which we tend to focus on. As we speak today, Lagos stands as the safest state in terms of water transportation in Lagos, in the whole of Nigeria. And it's not because we wished it or we only prayed, but we also invested heavily in ensuring safety. So in previous years, we used to have an average of 10 to 12 incidents every year on the waterways. But as we speak, last year we had only 1 singular incident. 2 years before we had only 2. This year, unfortunately, we had 2. But it was as a result of some mistakes, even though not directly by us, but because we are still regulators, we will take responsibility. But ever since the first 2 we had beginning of this year, we've not had any again this year. And it's because why? 1, we've deployed technology. So we have the first of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa, a waterways monitoring and a data management center where real time we're seeing all what is going on our waterways, and we're also gathering data You heard someone speak about data initially, and how important data is to be able to make informed decisions. Also, of course, we have the Cowrie card, which is also working on our water transportation system. And we have a drone technology, which we can use to monitor either underwater or above the water as well.
The Deputy Governor emphasizes the government's plans towards achieving sustainable, multimodal public transport system in Lagos.
As cities around the world continue to expand, the demand on our transportation system grows ever more acute. Here in Lagos, one of Africa's most fast-growing urban centers, we have felt this pressure very profoundly. Population growth, rapid urbanization, and economic development have placed increasing strain on existing infrastructure, often leading to traffic gridlock, some issue with environmental issues, and social inequalities. Lagos State government is actively implementing programs and policies aimed at reducing reliance on fossil fuels and combating the harmful effect of greenhouse gas emissions. Our administration is exploring clean urban transport solutions that will incorporate the use of hydroelectricity, CNG, biomass, geothermal energy, and even renewable energy sources such as wind power and solar energy into our public transport system. Towards sustainable urban mobility, LAMATA is currently implementing 2 pilot demonstration schemes on CNG buses and electric buses. This transition will reduce emission and create a cleaner, quieter, and healthier environment for us in Lagos. Sustainability, therefore, is not just about reducing carbon footprints. It is also about ensuring that our transport systems are inclusive and accessible to all citizens, irrespective of class or status. We cannot make progress in urban mobility if our most vulnerable citizens, the elderly, people living with disability, and our children are left behind in whatever we do. So historically, urban transport systems have failed to adequately serve vulnerable population. Public transportation can often be unsafe, unreliable, and difficult to access for vulnerable groups, reinforcing social inequalities. So at this conference, we have a unique opportunity to address these challenges heads-on.
This is the very first national conference organized by LAMATA, and the Lagos State government says it will continue to leverage on technology, work with the private sector to improve transportation in Lagos State.